And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. We are less than 48 hours away from the Springboks taking on Australia Saturday morning. A bit of an early wake up for South African fans. Kickoff is at 7:30 this time over here. And it should be a very interesting match. A place where the Springboks, I don't think they've ever played, actually. I'm not sure they've actually played in Adelaide because of the All Blacks. I mean, the All Blacks, the Wallabies barely play there. But Australia being a place where we haven't won since 2013, and Australia have named their side for this weekend. And who would have thought that of the two sides, Australia would actually be going with a 6-2 split rather than the Springboks? So a very interesting selection from Dave Rennie, and a couple of very big calls made from him. Yeah, I mean, as I said, this is usually our last live show before the weekend. We don't really do the shows on Fridays, so I thought we'd just sort of recap a little bit of what has been going on throughout the week, what we can expect on Saturday, what some of the matchups and stuff like that. We will have our official preview out tomorrow, as well as our preview for both the Sevens as well as the New Zealand versus Argentina game. Their teams are also out, very much a settled side for the All Blacks now, backing a lot of the players who did beat the Springboks at Emirates Airline Park. So we will have obviously a lot of content out tomorrow, as well as the captain's press conference from Sia Khaleesi, but no live stream. And then we'll be live very early on a Saturday morning, followed by the Australia versus New Zealand, Argentina versus New Zealand after that. So yeah, before you get into the show, please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Now, we've known that the South African side for quite a few days now, because we announced it on Monday, and that is how we are lining up. And we've now seen Australia name their side, and I'm just trying to pull it up here. It's an interesting side, and quite a few players back. It's a very good side. That much I think we can all agree on. I'm going to try and put it up on the screen as well. Because, yeah, very interesting the fact that they've gone with the 6-2 split. And I think that, the bomb squad is very much a South African thing. But interesting to sort of see how other teams, not necessarily copy it, but how they implement their 6-2 split from their perspective. And I think that, the biggest thing when it comes to beating a South African side is how do you counter the forwards? How do you physically match up to the Springboks? And one of the ways you can do that is by going with a 6-2 split, because you've got, so many various forward options. You're going to be bringing on, 14 forwards throughout the match. So you can basically replace your entire pack, which is quite a straightforward way of trying to sort of match the Springboks physicality. And if you look at the 6-2 split with what Australia have gone with, it's a very good side. So I think it's going to be interesting to sort of see how well it sort of translates. So if you look at the Australian side, this is the side that they have named. We're going to make them a bit smaller, put it over there. So they're going to be captained by James Slipper. So still no Michael Hooper, which is quite a boost from a South African perspective in terms of Australia being slightly weaker, because he is, last year I thought was one of the best players in the world. However, his replacement, both in Jed Holloway and Fraser McWright, have been quite impressive in their early careers. Fraser McWright in particular looks to be a very exciting player. But if we look at it up front, there's a lot of experience in their props, both on the starting lineup and in the bench. And when you consider how good South Africa's front rows, plural, are, they're going to need all of that experience if they are to really match up to South Africa. Because you've got James Slipper captaining the side. He will be making his 120th appearance in the green and gold of Australia. Inside, you're going to Falal Fainga and Alan Alatoa, who's back from injury. He's got 56 tests to his name. So, already in the, there's well over, was about 200 caps between that front row, which is actually a lot more than the Springbok starting front row has, because Joost Weber and Oxenshare are both sort of less than 20, and Francois Herber sort of sitting at about 52 caps. But off the bench, you're then bringing on Scott Sear with 71 tests, and Tanea Tupou at 42 tests, who is one of the best loose, tight heads in the world, especially in terms of his playing in the loose and with ball in hand. He's a very good ball carrier. He's very quick off the mark. He's a very useful player. is Tupou. But looking at the rest of sort of the pack, really, I'm going to try and make it a bit bigger so people can read it probably a bit better. A couple of interesting decisions. Now, I think that Rory Arnold is an interesting decision. I'm a big fan of Matt Phillip, but the big sort of player for me, I think that we have to watch out for is Rob Ballatini, who is a very aggressive ball carrier, who's very big physical presence, and I think he's the one that gets Australia over the advantage line sort of time and time again. So if the Springboks can nullify him, the Springboks can really sort of remove his influence from the game, I think that'll go a long way towards getting one over that pack. And you do need to. As I said, the battle will always start up front. So if we can try and nullify the pack, then I think there are certain players we can put under pressure in the back line. I think Nick White is a class player at scrum half. I think he's very much a typical scrum half, very in your face, very sort of very big personality. Somebody likes to get under the skin of the opposition. So, but he's a very good player. Apart from that, he's very quick with the ball and very exciting. There's a couple of injuries and no Bernard Foley, for example, which is a big call, which means that Noah Lolesio will be back. And I think he's a very talented player, not very experienced, playing just his 13th test. Very much the future number 10 for the Wallabies. But I do feel that he is somebody that we can have a go at. I do think that if the Boks can really get under his skin and really sort of take him on early on, I think he is somebody that can sometimes struggle when the sort of the pressure is quite high. So they need to sort of target those players. You're going to try and, first of all, there's a couple of sort of, if you're looking at like a recipe on how to beat the Wallabies, you want to try and out-muscle the pack, and then you got to make sure their playmakers are have as little influence in the game as possible. And that includes the likes of a Reece Hodge at 15, a Koroibete at 11, who's going to have a very interesting day up against Warwick Halan. So Warwick Halan's going to have a lot of defending to do. The fact that Tanta Basami is back and fit is a very big boost for the Wallabies, because he was, as I said, a lot of these players did miss out against that Argentina game, Argentina team a couple of weeks ago. So it's a very different side to the one that lost 40 something, lost by about 20 points, 48-17 when they lost to the Wallabies. But the week before that, they beat Argentina 41-26, which was more of a side that this kind of side, resembles. And a couple of big decisions, for example, James O'Connor being axed from the squad, Bernard Foley being called up, although he hasn't been included in the match day 23. But I think if you look at the bench as well, I think there's some very good players in the likes of Pete Sami, who I quite like. Tate McDermott is a very raw player. Andrew Kellaway is quite an exciting player. So it's a very contrasting bench, if you ask me, because, the Springboks have got a very experienced bench when you think of France staying with, all the experience he brings. Alfred Jantjies is almost a 50 caps for the Springboks. You've got Frank Mostert, 50 caps for the Springboks. You've got Malcolm Mark, Stephen Kitzel, Frans Malherbe, Vincent Koch, who've all played a lot. So far more experience coming off the bench from a Springbok perspective. But the question is, can sort of the starting 15 put them in a situation to try and win a game where they can try and see off? So it should be quite interesting. It's a very good Wallaby side. I think it could be a bit better. I think there are a couple of players that obviously they are missing quite a few players. So it's not the strongest Wallaby side, but that home ground advantage has really held so true from a Australian perspective over the years, especially against Springboks. We really do struggle to play in Australia. And I think this weekend we're going to have to start really well this weekend. And if we were to win this weekend, it's going to be even more difficult to win again next weekend, because if a win with this weekend would mean the first win since 2013 in Australia, to go back to back is like a whole different perspective itself. But let's see who are in the comments. So Sean Barnes saying, is the 6-2 split going to be known as bomb squad, even if it's not the Springbok side? Not in theory, not, because as I said, it is very much a South African, the way that they sort of deploy the 6-2 split. 6-2 splits aren't that new. But I just the reason the video is called that because I did see a lot of people sort of saying, the Australians are copying the Springboks, which I thought was quite funny. We talk about a little bit, because 6-2 split is not a new thing. As somebody was saying, I think it was one of the players I think it was Quagga Smith actually was talking about the fact that Johan Ackerman used to use a 6-2 split with the Lions. and he used to have Pocket Smith sort of in that position as well. But other sharpshooter say, I hear Faraz can't kick like it. Yeah, he's just saying that he's getting a bit old. He doesn't practice his kicking that much, although he did say even when he was younger, he didn't really practice his kicking an awful lot. We lost the third wicket. The photos are crumbling. This is typical. My name says, did you hear Matt Williams' comments in the box on off the ball? No, I didn't. I hope he stayed. Special 55 plus penalty. Ashley and the Wallabies trying to outbox the box. Track Sports saying, hey team, how are my South African friends? Box created the bomb squad. Sure, they would know where the weaknesses are and how to defuse the Aussie bomb squad. Taylor says, James O'Connor seems to have no chance at 10. He can play virtual positions, Maying and playing him outside 10 could prove to be good to him. Sean saying, congrats on the 17k subscribers and all you use is a green screen. Personally, I think that speaks to how good your content is. Well, to be honest, I think the fact that we use a green screen it makes it look a lot better than if I were to try and use a non-green screen background. Because we've got a reasonably. I think we've actually nailed this sort of the virtual studio quite nicely these days. I think we've got it looking quite good. But I mean it's a different world where you can just sit with the green screen behind me and create content, which is quite cool. Stian says we've got to get this man to 18k subscribers by the end of the weekend. Yeah, please. Works going to be hard to update us and keep us entertained with all sporting news, updates, and events. He deserves it. Love from Cape Town. Well, thank you so much, Stian. I really appreciate it. Always good to know that the work we are doing is appreciated. We will continue doing all the hard work, and we've got a lot of very big plans. Mo saying he hopes to see more tries. Tony saying, do you really think we can beat Australia? Well, we know we can beat Australia. Whether we will beat Australia is a bit of a different conversation, isn't it? But again, as I said, it all comes down to starting very well this weekend. We've got to start well. We've got to kick into gear quite early. We can't afford to wake up after conceding 12 to 14 points. So Nick basically been still in the dodgeball. Wallabies to run right over the box. Says just a server. Love the confidence. How you doing, LB? Hope you're well. 80 said the weekend we'll see who's the real green and gold. Correct. And playing at the Adelaide Oval, which is not expected to have a particularly big crowd. It is a 53,000 seater stadium. It will be very far away from the action. It is an AFL and a cricket field traditionally, so it is literally oval. So not really a rugby stadium. So interesting to see how the pitch will hold up. But I think it should probably hold up a lot better than, for example, the Cape Town Stadium has been recently. But interesting decision to have it at the Adelaide Oval. As I said, it will be quite. I mean, the fans will be quite far away from the field. So I don't know what the experience is like from that perspective. I also know that apparently ticket sales haven't been phenomenal, so I don't think we're expecting a sellout crowd, which would be quite frustrating. But I suppose the less sort of fans there are, there's less of a hostile atmosphere. I don't think we're in for a particularly hostile atmosphere in comparison to like an Ellis Park, and Eden Park, those sort of stadiums. Just so says go to the game. Well, enjoy that. John said, not sure if you do this, but would you be interested in expanding to Olympics, WWE, the other big sports industries? We are expanding into football very soon, and we're going to be going into also bringing back our golf podcast, hopefully, as well as looking at potentially launching a cricket podcast. We're also looking to try and launch the Forever Sports podcast, which is going to be hopefully quite a lot of fun. We're going to try and basically do sort of full-length hour podcast with various guests, which will include sporting personalities, coaches, administrators, personalities, agents, trying to get a holistic experience of various people involved in professional sport. So we're hoping to try and kick that off in sometime in September. So we've got a lot of plans. We just need to start implementing them and being able to afford to do all the stuff we want to be able to do. We will be live streaming the game. The stream will probably start going live top of 7. So I'll be live from about probably 7ish, if not maybe a bit earlier. And the stream should probably start about 5-6ish, with some pre stuff. So we will be live. We're going to have a lot of stuff ready to go. So don't stress. We will obviously be live for that game. We'll have a player rating show afterwards, and we will also be live for the New Zealand versus Argentina game. We will also have the Australia press conference afterwards. Hoping to have the South African press conference as well. Haven't confirmed yet whether it will be a virtual press conference or whether it was going to be only in person. So we wait and see exactly what's going to happen there. But yeah, that is the plan for the weekend. Claire said we need to nullify the Aussie backline so we can force early subs. If no plays bad and Hodges all for Kellaway, McDermott at 9 and White 10 is going to be a good target. Yeah, well, as I say, I think a lot of it is really having a go at Noah Melissio, because I think that if he's off his game, you know, that puts pressure on the team, because you don't really have a natural replacement for him. You know, it's a bit like you know, this weekend or previously, you know, for example, we didn't really have a natural flower half replacement for Pollard. So the expectation is that he would play the full 80. So whilst Andrew, you know, that there are the options you could potentially start to fly half, there's no out and out natural fly half on the bench for Australia like we do have in the form of Alton Yankees. Most saying I recall the 88-89 New York Knicks being known as the Bomb Squad. Mark Jackson, John Newman, and Roddy Strickland. John says, aside from the rugby chatting going on, your dedication to your channel will pay off. Keep going, Stevie. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Do you think we will see 12 Ikatar and 13 Kellaway? I actually don't know I don't know where they're going to put Kellaway. So we have to wait and see, I guess, in terms of what exactly is going to happen there. There is also, by the way, if you guys are looking to watch the match this weekend, it is being shown on the free-to-air channel 9 over in Australia, which is free to access. So I will be doing a video later explaining how to access it and with ExpressVPN, for example. And so it's going to be quite an easy way to watch it. So there should be no issues this weekend of trying to watch the game, because there's a lot of anyone that has subscribed to ExpressVPN and done the right thing, you'll be able to watch it on 9 in Australia server for free, which is very cool. So we will have that video up later. There's actually quite a lot of sport this weekend, because there is Formula One, for example. There's some cricket. There is football. There's Premier League this weekend, which should be quite cool. We'll have a Premier League preview out tomorrow, as well as a guide on how to watch the games. So there's a lot of sports to come. So make sure that you get involved, and we try and expand all the various things that we do. Cassius says, when I hear Yankees, I close the videos. Well, if you could spell his name correctly, I can know what you're talking about. Mo says, sorry, just to Kellaway's better at wing than center. Mo, I wanted to watch either of these two matches on tape delay, as the first is one at 3 a.m. and the second at 6 p.m. It'll be impossible to not come across the results. Yeah, there's always a tricky one, isn't it? Harry says, if Argentina can smash them by 32 plus, surely the box can beat them. If they don't, man, it's going to be a long day for you and the players. Well, so, yeah, I mean, but the same breath, the week before that, Australia smashed Argentina. And the one that they lost, they were missing quite a lot of players. They were missing half a squad, really. They have welcomed a lot of players back. I think they made 6 changes in total, which are all players sort of coming back from injury. Well, a lot of them are players coming back to injury. So, yeah, I think this Australia, it's interesting because the Rugby Championship is very weirdly poised at the moment, because you've got Argentina in first, you've got Australia in second, South Africa in third, and New Zealand at fourth. However, that entire table could literally flip around this weekend, depending on what the results are, because there are not that many points separating the various sides. So it's a big opportunity for a lot of teams to sort of try and take a bit of a lead, because at the moment I'm just trying to pull up the Rugby Championship table, but every single team has got a victory and 1 loss, so there are not massive gaps between them. It's literally Argentina, Australia with 5 points, South Africa, New Zealand with 4 points. Points difference was Argentina on 16, South Africa on 4, and Australia on minus 16, and New Zealand on minus 4. So if Argentina and Australia were to win, for example, they would start to pull away and create a bit of a gap between South Africa and New Zealand. Obviously, that could all change next week if the results go the other way. But the first team to blink is really, that's what we're sort of waiting at. So the first team that can go back-to-back wins in this tournament, from now, for example, will put themselves really in the running to win the Rugby Championship. So, for example, if South Africa and New Zealand were to win back-to-back matches, they could both be sitting on, upwards of 16, 17 points. they could both be sort of sitting around there, but they'd also have probably about 10-point or 9-point lead over the other two teams. So the next 2 weeks are moving weeks. It's moving weeks, and we'll know more sort of once we've played the next 2 weeks where we stand with regards to the Argentina game. We've got to go away to Argentina, which is very difficult, but then we are usually quite good at beating Argentina at home. So these two next, these two games are the important ones. You win these two games, then you put yourselves in a position to try and win the rugby championship. Then you have to go away to Argentina, which is tricky, but again, on the back of these two, hopefully we'll have a lot of confidence going into Argentina, and confidence is a very big thing when it comes to international rugby. In case you missed it yesterday, by the way, we have confirmed a midweek fixture against Munster. And what's very interesting about these fixtures is that, we're talking about the fact that England test on the 26th of November is officially outside the test window, which means that in theory we could not have our top 14, our Premiership, our rugby, at Japan rugby players all not available. And if we don't, then we could be very much playing in the SA-based 15. Now, the interesting thing about that is that you imagine that our SA Select 15 that we're going to see at the end of the year, playing against Munster, playing against Bristol, will probably be quite a lot of players who are South African-based. So it could be quite interesting to see the fact that they get to have 2 games to run out, and then they could potentially make up the bulk of that England test team, which takes place outside the international window. So we're in for a very interesting end of year tour. So in case you missed that has been confirmed. The Munster game, it is 3 days before France. It's on the 10th of November. On the Thursday, we then play against France. 2 days. We play against France 2 days later on the Saturday, the 12th. So a really cool end of year tour is shaping up. Honey says, John says, you have any other interest in sport besides rugby, soccer, and golf? Yeah, I watch a lot of cricket, watch some tennis, I watch a bit of boxing if it's on, watch some Formula One. I watch most sport, to be honest. Justice says, small part of me thinks Argentina is going to put up a good fight against New Zealand. I hope so. S-Box says, let's be honest, Box will lose both games. Odds are more street smart and use the referee to assist. White will be in the ref's ear the entire game. I certainly am not writing off the Box before they even run onto the field. But we'll beat Argentina. So Hani says New Zealand will beat Argentina in both games very easily. So they will definitely be on top of it. Australia with bonus points. Yeah, I don't think it'll be very easily. I don't think it's the strongest Argentinian side that has been named. I don't think it's going to be that easy to beat them. They're a very proud nation. And they have beaten New Zealand before, and quite recently as well. Tender says, do you think we may see Delindi off with Yankees on and Pollard at 12? Could we see 9 Henches at 10, Yankees 12, Gaza 13, Polly, and we won't see Polly at 13. I can tell you that much. And I don't think you'll see Warwick Lam move to 11, 14 Arm, 15 Stain. I don't think we'll see that at all. I'd be very surprised if we see Pollard at inside centre, because you've got David Willemse and Frans Steyn. And Frans Steyn is more of an inside centre these days as a fullback. So I personally think that you will see David Willemse play the full 80. I think you'll see Yankees replace Pollard, and I think you'll see Steyn replace Delindi. That's what I think will happen. Alternatively, you could put Steyn at 12 and put Kalant at 15. And but then you're putting I'm on the wing and stuff like that. I don't think we really want to do that. Some people are saying that maybe you should put Dale Indy on the wing, but he hasn't played wing in a very long time. Honey says ref's going to be a big part of the game. Australia is a horrible place to play. Trying to work out if you know who the ref is. Let me see if it was now. In fact, I should be able to find it on the World Rugby. So let's go find who our referee is. World Rugby officials appointments. There we go. That's June, July. Rugby Champs 2022. Right, let's see who we've got. So Australia versus South Africa at Adelaide Oval. It will be Paul Williams from New Zealand. He'll be assisted by Ben O'Keefe and Tuil Chanini from France. And Brendan Pickerel, New Zealand, will be the TMO. Next weekend, we will have Ben O'Keefe, Paul Williams, and so it'll be the same team. They'll just be swapping roles a bit. Yes, so those are that would be the referee. So we've got Paul Williams for this weekend, and hopefully we don't talk about him too much, because you never want to talk about the referee really. You want the referee to just do his job and to us not be too concerned. So Sean says, if we're playing England outside the window, how can they be allowed players from the Prem team? We can't have them from the Prem double standards. Well, that's what I keep saying. That's what I was very confused about that, when everybody kept saying we're not going to have our English-based players. And I said, but if they're not going to have the English-based players, they're not going to have any team. Literally, like nothing. So not entirely sure how that's going to work. We wait and see, because obviously if we have our Premiership players, for example, then that would include Vincent Koch, Pollard, Jasper Wiese, who are, I'm trying to just go to the 15. We got Lutia's in France now. Who else would it be? Fat players in France. I mean, in Japan now. There's Lutiaga. Anybody else in England from our 23 this weekend, for example? Yeah, that's it. So it wouldn't be that many players that we'd be able to keep. But yeah. But yeah, so that's the thing. I can't imagine they'll be able to have the Premiership players and we won't. So we might just be without our top 14 players and our Japanese-based players, which not having Japanese players will be a problem, because that's no Marks, that's no Colby if he's fit again, that's no Parker Smith, that's no Frank Mostert, that's no Peter Steph Toy, that's no if we don't have, for example, if we don't have our Irish players, for example, that's no Dwayne Mullen. There would be no Faf de Klerk if there's no Japanese-based players. There would be no De Lindy. So yeah, not having our Japanese players would be quite a big blow, more so than probably our Premiership players. John says, yes, they do, but I believe we have quality side as well that we could do a job in Oz. We need to have a trick up our sleeve. Contenders to hope for BOKS by 16 or more so we can climb to 2. I'm not worried about world rankings. Keep winning matches and the world rankings will take care of themselves. I'm not worried about winning margins at this rate. John says, love wrestling since I was a child. I wrestle and play rugby now. Kills my body, and I mean professional wrestling, not Olympic grapple style wrestling. Yeah, they've really got into wrestling, must admit. John saying, Paul Wins one of the most unreliable referees I've laid my eyes on. Well, let's hopefully see that the better of him this weekend. I'd like to see a good refereeing performance. Contender says, I pray that if white chirps the ref comes free kicks, penalties, then a yellow. Be surprised. Well, I suppose it's the difference between chirping and talking. The best scrum halves are the ones that know how to speak to the referees and get away with it and can sort of toe the line between what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Yeah, we're gonna pretty much start wrapping up. Again, also interesting news, by the way, in case you didn't see it, is that the Stormers will be playing 3 games away from the Cape Town Stadium this weekend. I mean, not this weekend, this season. I'm all over the place today. Makes me a little bit sick. They're playing 3 matches at the Darnie Craven Stadium in Stellenbosch, as well as one in Gqeberha at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. So I think it'll be quite interesting. So the fact that the Darnie Craven Stadium, for example, is a really cool place to play, and they had a game there last season. And as I said, you've got an entire university full of people, so I don't think filling a stadium should be an issue. So I think that'll be quite cool. Actually, I think those 3 games will be quite special. And Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium hasn't had rugby with fans in a long time, decent rugby, So I think that could actually be quite a lot of fun. So yeah, it's not in the Western Cape. But I think it'll be quite an interesting occasion to actually be able to go across to Gqeberha and see what's cooking. But yeah, that's it for me for today. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel. As I said, we'll have quite a few videos up in the next few days. Obviously, press conferences. Siya Kolisi and Valeria Stick will be addressing us tomorrow. But apart from that, I'll see you guys again on the live stream on Saturday morning, bright and early. Make sure you set your alarms. Please do smash like on the video on the way out. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you guys all.